Hello, my wonderful English learners. Welcome back to our storytelling classroom. Today, I have a story that might change how you handle difficult moments in your life. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever said something when you were angry and later wished you hadn't? Have you ever reacted quickly to someone's words and then regretted it for days or even years? Most of us have experienced this. In the heat of the moment, our emotions take control and we say or do things that we later realize were not helpful. Heat of the moment. This means when emotions are very strong and you act without thinking. Today, I want to tell you about Marcus, a young man who learned one of life's most valuable lessons. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Sometimes not reacting is the strongest response of all. Reacting, this means responding quickly and emotionally to something. Response, this means answering or replying in a thoughtful way. This is a story about the difference between reacting and responding, and how learning to pause can give you more control over your life than you ever imagined. Are you ready to discover the power of the pause with Marcus? Marcus was a 25-year-old office worker who was known for his intelligence and hard work. He had many good qualities, but he had one big problem. He reacted to everything very quickly, especially when he felt disrespected or criticized. Temper. This is how easily someone gets angry. Disrespected. This means treated without proper regard or politeness. Criticized. This means having your faults or mistakes pointed out. If a colleague made a sarcastic comment, Marcus would immediately respond with anger. If his boss corrected his work, he would defend himself loudly. If someone cut in front of him in line, Marcus would confront them right away. Sarcastic, this means saying something in a mocking way that sounds positive, but means something negative. Defend himself, this means protect himself by arguing or explaining. Confront, this means face someone directly about a problem. Marcus thought these quick reactions showed that he was strong and that people should respect him, but actually the opposite was happening. His colleagues began to see him as the angry guy who couldn't handle criticism. His friends started to avoid difficult conversations with him because they knew he would explode. Even his family walked on eggshells around him. Handle. This means deal with or manage something. Explode. This means suddenly become very angry. Walk on eggshells. This is an expression meaning to be very careful not to upset someone. Marcus didn't understand why people seemed to distance themselves from him. He thought he was just standing up for himself and defending his dignity. Distance themselves, this means move away emotionally or physically. Standing up for himself, this means defending himself against unfair treatment. Dignity, this is the quality of being worthy of respect. But then something happened that changed everything. One day at work, Marcus was in an important meeting with several managers and colleagues. He had worked very hard on a project presentation, staying late for weeks to make it perfect. Presentation. This is when you show and explain your work to others. But during the meeting, his manager, Mr. Thompson, criticized the presentation in front of everyone, saying it was incomplete and unprofessional. Incomplete. This means not finished or missing parts. Unprofessional. This means not meeting workplace standards. Marcus felt his face turn red with anger and embarrassment. Without thinking, he stood up and said loudly, "That's not fair. I worked harder on this than anyone here, and you're just trying to make me look bad in front of everyone." The room became completely silent. Everyone stared at Marcus. His outburst had made the situation much worse. Outburst. This is a sudden release of strong emotion. After that meeting, everything changed for Marcus at work. His colleagues treated him differently. His manager began to question his professionalism, and Marcus realized that his quick reaction had overshadowed years of good work. Consequences. These are the results that follow from an action. Professionalism. This is behaving appropriately in work situations. Overshadowed. This means made something else seem less important. That evening, Marcus sat in his apartment feeling terrible about what had happened. He called his grandfather, Robert, who was 78 years old and had always been Marcus's source of wisdom and support. Source of wisdom. This means someone you go to for good advice. "Grandpa," Marcus said, "I messed up today. I got angry in a meeting and now everyone thinks I'm unstable." Messed up. This means made a mistake or handled something badly. Unstable. This means not steady or reliable emotionally. His grandfather listened carefully to the whole story. Then he said something that surprised Marcus. "Marcus, you're a good young man with a good heart, but you've been giving other people control over your emotions. Every time someone pushes your buttons, you react exactly the way they expect you to." Push your buttons. This means do things that make you angry on purpose. "What do you mean, Grandpa?" When you react immediately to every criticism or insult, you're letting that person control how you feel. You're giving them power over your peace of mind. Peace of mind. This means feeling calm and not worried. Robert continued, "True strength isn't about reacting quickly or loudly. True strength is about choosing how to respond." Marcus had never thought about it this way before. "But Grandpa, if I don't defend myself, people will think I'm weak." No, Marcus. If you react emotionally to everything, people will think you're out of control. But if you pause, think, and then respond calmly, people will respect your strength. Out of control. This means unable to manage your emotions or behavior. If you're enjoying Marcus's story of self-discovery so far, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so you can learn more English through stories with us. Over the next few weeks, Robert began teaching Marcus about what he called the power of the pause. The pause. This means stopping briefly before you act or speak. Marcus, his grandfather explained, when someone says something that makes you angry, your first instinct is to react immediately. But what if you waited just 5 seconds before responding? Instinct. This is a natural tendency to act without thinking. 5 seconds doesn't seem like very long, Grandpa. Try it, Robert said. Next time someone upsets you, count to 5 slowly and breathe deeply. See what happens. Marcus was skeptical, but he decided to try his grandfather's advice. Skeptical. This means having doubts about whether something will work. The first test came a few days later. Marcus was waiting in line at a coffee shop when someone cut in front of him. His immediate impulse was to tell the person angrily to go to the back of the line. Impulse. This is a sudden, strong desire to do something. But instead, Marcus remembered his grandfather's words. He took a deep breath and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something interesting happened. By the time he reached 5, Marcus realized that getting angry about this small incident wasn't worth his energy or peace of mind. Incident. This is an event or occurrence, usually unpleasant. Instead of confronting the person angrily, Marcus calmly said, "Excuse me, I think there might be some confusion about the line." The person looked surprised and apologetic. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Please, go ahead." Apologetic. This means sorry and regretful about something. Marcus was amazed. By not reacting with anger, he had resolved the situation peacefully and maintained his own calm. Resolved. This means solved or settled. Maintained. This means kept or preserved. He began practicing the pause in small situations every day. When a driver cut him off in traffic, instead of honking angrily, he paused and let it go. When a co-worker made a sarcastic comment, instead of responding with sarcasm, he paused and either said nothing or responded neutrally. Let it go. This means stop being bothered by something. Neutrally. This means without showing strong emotions. The more Marcus practiced, the more he realized something powerful. He was taking back control of his emotions and his life. A month later, Marcus faced his biggest test yet. During another work meeting, the same manager, Mr. Thompson, criticized Marcus's work again, this time even more harshly. Harshly. This means severely or unkindly. "Marcus," Mr. Thompson said in front of the whole team, "this work is sloppy and shows a lack of attention to detail. I'm beginning to question whether you're right for this position." Sloppy. This means careless and not well done. Attention to detail. This means caring about small, important things. Question whether. This means have doubts about. Marcus felt the familiar surge of anger rising in his chest. His old self would have stood up and argued loudly, but instead Marcus took a slow, deep breath and counted silently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Familiar surge, this means a feeling he had experienced many times before. During those 5 seconds, Marcus realized several important things. First, Mr. Thompson's criticism was unfair and seemed designed to embarrass him. Second, reacting emotionally would only make things worse. Third, he could choose a different response. Designed to. This means intended to cause something. After his pause, Marcus looked directly at Mr. Thompson and said calmly, "I understand your concerns. I'd like to discuss this privately after the meeting so I can better understand your expectations and improve my work." Privately, this means alone, not in front of others. Expectations, these are what someone hopes or requires from you. The room was silent, but this time it was a different kind of silence. People looked impressed by Marcus's calm professionalism, not shocked by an emotional outburst. Impressed, this means feeling admiration for someone's qualities. Mr. Thompson seemed surprised by Marcus's calm response. Yes, we can meet after the meeting." Later, when Marcus met privately with Mr. Thompson, something unexpected happened. Without the audience of other colleagues, Mr. Thompson's tone was much different. Audience, this means people who are watching or listening. "Marcus," he said, "I want to apologize for how I spoke to you in the meeting. I've been under a lot of pressure lately, and I took it out on you unfairly." Took it out on. This means treated someone badly because you're upset about something else. Marcus was amazed. His calm, non-reactive response had completely changed the dynamic of the situation. Dynamic. This is the way people interact and relate to each other. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more English learning stories about personal growth and communication. After this experience, Marcus had a deeper conversation with his grandfather about what he had learned. "Grandpa," Marcus said, "I'm starting to understand what you meant about not giving other people control over my emotions. But why is it so hard to pause before reacting?" Robert smiled. "That's a very wise question, Marcus. Our quick reactions often come from old hurts and fears, not from the present situation. Old hurts, these are emotional pains from the past that still affect you. For example, when Mr. Thompson criticized you in front of others, what did it remind you of?" Marcus thought about it. "It reminded me of being in school, when teachers would embarrass me in front of the class. I always hated that feeling." "Exactly," Robert said. You weren't just reacting to Mr. Thompson. You were reacting to every time in your life when you felt humiliated in public. That's why the emotion was so strong. Humiliated. This means made to feel ashamed and foolish. Marcus began to understand that many of his quick reactions weren't really about the present moment at all. They were about protecting himself from old emotional wounds. Emotional wounds. These are psychological hurts that haven't healed. But Grandpa, how do I know when I'm reacting to something old versus something that's really happening now? That's where the pause becomes so powerful, Robert explained. When you pause and breathe, you create space between the trigger and your response. In that space, you can ask yourself, is this about now, or is this about something from my past? Trigger. This is something that causes a strong emotional reaction. Create space. This means make room for thought between feeling and action. Robert continued, the pause gives you the chance to respond to what's actually happening, not to what you're afraid might happen based on old experiences. Marcus practiced this new awareness. When someone's words or actions triggered strong emotions, he would pause and ask himself, what is this really about? Awareness. This means conscious knowledge and understanding. Often, he discovered that his emotional reactions were much stronger than the actual situation warranted because they were connected to past experiences. Warranted. This means justified or appropriate. As Marcus continued practicing the power of the pause, he noticed that many areas of his life began to improve. Ripple effects. These are the spreading results of a change, like ripples on water. At work, his colleagues began to see him differently. Instead of being known as the guy who explodes, he became known as someone who was calm and thoughtful under pressure. Under pressure, this means in stressful or difficult situations. When conflicts arose in meetings, people began looking to Marcus to help find solutions rather than worrying that he would make things worse. Conflicts. These are disagreements or disputes. Solutions. These are answers to problems. His relationships with friends and family also improved dramatically. His sister, Sarah, who had been avoiding him for months, called him one day. Dramatically, this means in a very noticeable way. Marcus, she said, I don't know what you've been doing differently, but you seem so much more peaceful lately. It's nice to be around you again. Peaceful. This means calm and without conflict. Marcus realized that his quick reactions hadn't just been hurting his relationships, they had been exhausting him emotionally. Constantly being ready to fight or defend himself had drained his energy. Exhausting. This means making someone very tired. Drained. This means used up all of something, like energy. Now, with the power of the pause, Marcus felt more relaxed and had more energy for positive things in his life. One day, Marcus witnessed something that showed him just how much he had changed. He was in a restaurant when he saw a customer become very angry with a young waiter over a small mistake with his order. Witnessed, this means saw something happen. The customer was shouting and calling the waiter names. Marcus's old self would have either joined in the criticism or gotten angry at the customer for being so rude. But instead, Marcus watched as the young waiter remained completely calm. The waiter listened to the angry customer, then said quietly, "I understand you're frustrated, sir. Let me fix this right away, and I'll make sure your meal is exactly what you want." Frustrated. This means feeling upset because things aren't going as expected. The customer's anger seemed to deflate in the face of the waiter's calm response. Within minutes, the situation was resolved peacefully. Deflate. This means to lose force or strength. Marcus approached the waiter afterward and said, "I was impressed by how you handled that difficult customer. You stayed so calm." The young waiter smiled. "My grandfather taught me that I can't control how other people act, but I can always control how I respond. Getting upset wouldn't have helped anyone." Marcus felt a warm recognition. This young person had learned the same lesson that had transformed his own life. Recognition. This means understanding or acknowledging something familiar. As Marcus became more skilled at managing his reactions, he began to share what he had learned with others who struggled with similar challenges. Managing. This means controlling or handling something effectively. His younger cousin Jake, who was in college, came to him for advice. Jake had been getting into arguments with his roommates and was worried about damaging these important relationships. Damaging. This means harming or hurting something. "Marcus," Jake said, "everyone says I'm too sensitive and that I overreact to everything, but I can't help it when people are unfair to me." Sensitive. This means easily hurt or offended by things. Overreact. This means react more strongly than the situation requires. Marcus recognized his younger self in Jake's words. "Jake, I understand exactly how you feel. Let me share something that changed my life." Marcus taught Jake about the 5-second pause and explained the difference between reacting and responding. When someone does something that upsets you, Marcus explained, your first feeling is real and valid, but what you do with that feeling is your choice. Valid. This means reasonable and acceptable. You can let the feeling control you and react immediately, or you can pause, breathe, and choose how to respond in a way that serves your best interests. Serves your best interests. This means helps you achieve your goals and maintain your well-being. Jake was skeptical at first, just as Marcus had been. But Marcus encouraged him to try the pause technique for just 1 week. A week later, Jake called Marcus excitedly. "Marcus, it works! Yesterday, my roommate ate my food from the refrigerator without asking. Normally, I would have gotten really angry and started a big fight, but I paused, counted to 5, and then calmly asked him to replace the food or ask next time. He apologized and went to the store immediately. Replace. This means put back or substitute something. Marcus smiled, remembering his own first successes with the pause technique. Marcus also began sharing his insights at work. When he saw colleagues getting into heated arguments or reacting emotionally to criticism, he would sometimes offer gentle suggestions. Insights. These are clear understandings about something. Heated arguments. These are angry, emotional disputes. Sometimes, he would say, it helps to take a moment to breathe before responding. It usually leads to better outcomes. Outcomes. These are the final results of actions or events. Many of his colleagues began to adopt this approach, and the overall atmosphere in the office became more collaborative and less confrontational. Collaborative. This means working together cooperatively. Confrontational. This means aggressive and argumentative. One of the most powerful things Marcus learned was that sometimes the best response is no response at all. His grandfather had taught him that silence can be more powerful than words, especially when dealing with people who are trying to provoke an emotional reaction. Provoke. This means deliberately try to cause a reaction, usually anger. Marcus experienced this during a family gathering when his uncle made some critical comments about Marcus's career choices, clearly trying to start an argument. Marcus's old self would have defended his choices loudly and probably would have caused a scene that ruined the family dinner. Caused a scene. This means created an embarrassing public display of emotion. Instead, Marcus simply looked at his uncle calmly and said nothing. After a moment, he smiled slightly and changed the subject to something positive. His uncle seemed confused and disappointed that he couldn't get Marcus to react. The conversation moved on, and the family dinner remained pleasant. Later, Marcus's aunt approached him. "I saw how you handled your uncle's comments," she said. "That took real strength and maturity. I was impressed." Maturity. This means being emotionally and mentally developed, acting like an adult. Marcus realized that his silence had been far more powerful than any argument could have been. It had shown strength rather than weakness, and it had preserved the peace for everyone. Preserved. This means protected and maintained. He learned that not every comment deserves a response. Not every criticism needs to be addressed, and not every provocation requires engagement. Addressed. This means dealt with or responded to. Engagement. This means participation or involvement. Some battles, Marcus learned, are won by not fighting them at all. 2 years after learning the power of the pause, Marcus's life had transformed in ways he never expected. Transformed, this means completely changed, usually for the better. At work, he had been promoted to a team leadership position, partly because of his reputation for remaining calm and thoughtful under pressure. promoted. This means given a better job with more responsibility. Reputation. This is what people think about your character and abilities. His relationships are deepened and become more meaningful. Friends and family enjoyed spending time with him because they knew he wouldn't overreact to small problems or create drama. Deepened. This means became stronger and more meaningful. Most importantly, Marcus felt more at peace with himself. He no longer felt like he was at the mercy of other people's words and actions. At peace, this means feeling calm and content. At the mercy of, this means powerless against something. He had learned that true strength comes not from reacting quickly or loudly, but from choosing your responses wisely. The 5-second pause had given him something invaluable: control over his own emotional life and the ability to respond to challenges with wisdom rather than just emotion. Invaluable. This means extremely valuable and useful. Marcus often thought about his grandfather's words. True strength is about choosing how to respond. Now Marcus understood that this choice, the choice to pause before reacting, was one of the most powerful tools a person could develop. And every day, Marcus continued to practice the pause, knowing that this simple technique had given him the power to shape his relationships, his career, and his own peace of mind.
And that, my dear students, is the inspiring story of Marcus and how he discovered the power of the pause. Let me summarize our story. Marcus was a young man who reacted quickly and emotionally to criticism and conflict, which hurt his relationships and career. With guidance from his wise grandfather, he learnt to pause for 5 seconds before responding, which gave him time to choose thoughtful responses instead of emotional reactions. This simple practice transformed his life, improving his relationships, career, and inner peace. Here are 5 key words to remember from today's story. Pause. To stop briefly before acting or speaking. Reacting. Responding quickly and emotionally without thinking. Responding. Answering or replying in a thoughtful, controlled way. Trigger. Something that causes a strong emotional reaction. Maturity. Being emotionally developed and acting wisely. Now, let me ask you, can you think of a time when pausing before reacting might have helped you handle a situation better? How can you practice using the 5-second pause in your daily life? Remember, Marcus's story shows us that we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. The power to pause gives us the choice to respond with wisdom rather than just emotion. Thank you for joining me on Marcus's journey of emotional growth. If you enjoyed learning English through this story about personal development, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tell me in the comments, what situation in your life could benefit from the power of the pause? Until next time, remember that true strength lies not in quick reactions, but in thoughtful responses. Practice the pause, choose your responses wisely, and watch how it transforms your relationships and your peace of mind. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep practicing the power of mindful communication.